Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Happy New Year. Good evening, good afternoon. Good to see you. Welcome back to High Top Sports. We're a day late for the best day of the week because yesterday was obviously New Year's Day. Dave was traveling. We had bowl games galore. We have bowl games today due to the postponement, but we're here. We're rocking and rolling. Hey, who's that coming down the track? Notre Dame. Notre Dame, that's who's coming. That's who's coming, boys and girls. Good to see you. Smash the like button, subscribe. We're going to be talking with our man, Nick Marcinko, talking about the Under Armour All-American game. Had a couple of guys there from the 2025 class who stood out against big-time recruits, some wide receivers. We'll talk about the playoffs this past couple of days, and then possibly another commit coming to Florida from the 2025 class. We'll get into it. Before we do, though, ladies and gentlemen, David Swoderquist joins us. Big dog, how you feeling, baby, after that big Notre Dame W?
Just like I planned it, Shelton. You know, I mean, I had a good, couple weeks off of work. Of course, I had to go in and out of a certain amount of days, and then got some traveling done. And then, lo and behold, I look at my TV screen. Miami's getting welted in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Their quarterback quits on them in the second half and says, "Bye, see y'all later. Thanks for the money." And then, of course, tonight, hey, look, big dogs barking ain't barking anymore. It's actually Thursday. It's not Wednesday. It's Thursday. It's the best day of the week, at least for this week, Shelton. Let's get it. Let's go.
Agreed. And we'll talk all about it a little bit later on. Again, that game, all the playoff games, I think they were fun to watch, fun to talk about. In Georgia, a little sus in the quarterback development aspect. But let's get into it, Mr. Nick Marcinko. Nick, how you doing, big guy? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us, boss. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, man. Happy New Year. We got your follow down below. Give yourself a follow. I mean, he's always posting great content. I think I started following you during one of the high school games. I think you're posting a lot of content that had me fired up. I think like about a year and a half ago or something like that. But you've been at the Under Armour game all week, taking a look at these guys. So I'm excited to look. What's great about this is our guys that we've recruited are going up against the best of the best. Essentially, they're going against the cream of the crop of this class. And so you kind of get to see the iron sharpen iron situation and see, who's kind of going to be the standout guy. Talk to us about some guys that you were seeing. Again, 7 of them were part of that. I'll let you talk about that, who was all there.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, I enjoy going to just the week in general, the practices and watching the game on TV because, like you said, it's your first chance really to see these guys go against like the best of the best in the country. Because you can watch high school film and you can do all that, but you don't really know the talent they're going against unless you're super familiar with high school football. So it provides a really good opportunity to just watch these guys kind of perfect their craft against the best players in the country. So yeah, Florida had 7 guys originally on the roster, which was the most in the country. And Dallas Wilson didn't end up making it, but 6 was still the most in the country. So you had 2 wide receivers in Nashawn Montgomery and Vernell Brown III. You had 2026 quarterback Will Griffin commit. Then on the defensive side of the ball, you had Ty Jackson, linebacker, and edge Jalen Wiggins. And then the only player, which this is unfortunate for Byron, but the only player on Team Unstoppable was Byron Lewis, the running back. So I don't know why couldn't they have just put him with a team full of his teammates? I don't know. But yeah. And I got to tell you this, it was difficult to watch him watch him a lot because they practice on 2 different fields. So and when 5 Gators are on one field and one and it's just a running back, because the running backs in these practices don't do a whole lot. They just go through a lot of run scheme stuff and everything. So it was difficult to actually watch him. He's one player that I really didn't watch a whole lot this weekend because I spent most of my time on Team Icon's field because that's where most of Florida's players were. So
reasonably so. So talk to us. Who is look, there's a lot of talent here. Will Griffin obviously announcing he's shutting it down. 2026 guy being invited to this game. We were kind of talking before the show. There's a lot more 2026 guys at this camp, which I thought was a big nod, but we'll kind of get into why that is in a little bit later on. But out of the 6, not including Byron, because obviously or 5, I guess, then since he was kind of in the, on his own, who really stood out from this class at the top of our guys?
So Yeah, so for Florida's guys, I mean, the wide receivers killed it. Nashawn Montgomery, we were talking a little bit before here. He's kind of he doesn't get talked about a whole lot in Florida's recruiting class just because Florida has two 5 stars in Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown. But nobody really talks a ton about Nashawn Montgomery. But the first day of practice, he was outstanding. He put on a show. Keelan Russell, the quarterback for one of the quarterbacks for Team Icon, targeted him, had to have been almost 10 times in, I don't know, 30 reps on the day for Nashawn, and he caught 6 or 7 passes, had the only touchdown. I mean, the dude just knows how to get open, and that's not something you can just teach. I mean, he understands how to get open. He was working the underneath routes, the corner routes, and then he showed enough speed to win over top and had a long touchdown. So I mean, he was really impressive day one, and then day two it was Vernell Brown, the third. His release off the line is just it's lightning quick. He's and when he gets out in front of you, you're not catching him. And you saw that in the game today. He had some yak yards. And if you didn't watch the game, you should go rewatch it because the Florida boys played well. And Nashawn had himself a touchdown, and Vernell nearly had about a 40-yard touchdown. So yeah, I mean the two receivers, and here's one thing I'll say about Nashawn Montgomery is, like, I don't really get a ton into their recruiting grade and overrated, underrated. That's not really my thing. What I know is that he belongs on the field with the best recruits in the country. He is that good, and he's a guy that I'm telling you can play early for Florida next year, and I think all three of them can. They're definitely all talented enough, but Nashawn's ability to just get open and understand, how to sell the fake on a corner route and just the finer little details like that, he was exceptional. And then Will Griffin, look, 2026 quarterback, and I don't get into the stats of this game, the actual game, because look, these what you can only prepare so much for. They have 3 days of practice. Really, it's only 2 days. The last day is pretty much just a walkthrough. So I know for a fact that the defensive side of the ball, they only have three plays, and all they do is play man coverage. So they have 3 plays, and then the receivers, they learn like 5 or 6 routes, and it's just your basic high school football level of offense. So and then the offensive line. I mean, if you watch the game today, the offensive lines were terrible. And these are 5-star. These are some of the best players in the country, and they were horrible. But this happens every single year. And then, if you remember last year, DJ Lagway, he completed, I think, 5 of 10 passes, and before he got hurt. Yeah. And so, I don't get super into the stats on quarterback play for this game, but what I saw throughout the week of practice, which I think is more important than actually the game, is he's poised in the pocket. And if you watched him today, you see he's not afraid to go through his reads. He's patient in the pocket, and he's not afraid to take a hit. He'll stand tall in the pocket and make sure he can get that ball off cleanly. And so I was very impressed with his poise this week. And I think Florida has a good one, and I think he's probably going to get a bump in the recruiting rankings.
Yeah, he's a top 10 quarterback right now, and you got to think, we were talking before the show how this game is going to turn into more of a 2026 game, because, and you were saying before the show, is like, look, these guys are going out there and running around, and you're risking injury for what? There's no, you're not going to get any more ratings. It's not going to, you're already signed. So it's just it's a show-off game, essentially. And so kind of go ahead.
Go for it.
I was going to compare it to
Friday Night Lights. Just saying, yeah, exactly. It's a good comparison. This is my third year at the Under Armour camp, and every year there's more 2026 kids, whatever the class before. And the reason for that is these programs that sign these 4- and 5-star kids, they just don't want their players playing in what's basically a meaningless game. There's nothing, they don't, yes, they're being honored as All-Americans, which is great and everything, but actually personally for them, it doesn't, like you said, they're not going to get a recruiting bump. It's already signed. Everything's a done deal. Most of the kids are signed, but every year we're seeing more and more juniors playing this game. And I think that's slowly where the game is going to turn to, which I think is a good thing, because it gives the juniors an opportunity to say, look, go out and improve yourself. Maybe you don't have the ranking you want, and you can go and ball against some of the best players in the country and get yourself a nicer bump in the rankings. But it's still a fun game, and it's cool to see the competitive kind of nature of even the practices take over. I mean, I was there and they had to break up, not fights, but just guys getting after it. And so at least the competitive nature of the game is still there, and so it was really fun weekend.
Yeah, and what I love too is you got to think for this 2026 what this game can turn into is a recruiting tactic. I mean, you see Will out there slinging the rock. Guys got to look. Other 2026 guys, I mean, this kid's kind of good, and they know he's already shut it down. So you gotta like to put the outlook for Gators recruiting headed into next year, especially having a quarterback locked in this early. Again, I keep bringing it back. Last year we didn't have anybody until the end. Jamel Jones. Year before that we had DJ. We saw what that class was able to do. Having a quarterback is key to having a successful recruiting class.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you in my opinion, you want one every year. So,
yep.
Yeah, and especially I know he wasn't committed in last class. I mean, you look at Lagway and what he's been able to do this year. You've heard kids talk about Lagway. We even saw a video of I think it was Nashawn Montgomery saying, "Hey, Lagway, I'm on the way." I can't remember what he said in that video, but I retweeted it out. So he's even referencing Lagway and stuff like that. So it's like for a program like Florida to be able to bring in two highly rated 5-star players, especially the number 2 wide receiver in the nation, says a lot because, like you said, you get a good quarterback. They see the results. They want to play for that quarterback. And that's probably the first time we've pulled 2 5-star wide receivers since like 03 or 06. So it's like, you would never see Florida getting those highly rated receivers. They were always going to Alabama or they were always going elsewhere. And now you're finally starting to see Florida get in those elite talents, especially on offense. And it's really good to see. I mean, especially when your class was sitting in the 50s and 60s, like mid-year. And even everybody thought it was over, thought Napier was out the door. And sure enough, everything turned around. Recruiting did, just everything. And then the Under Armour games, like, I love watching them just to see the talent. I mean, it doesn't really matter who wins, who loses. Usually most of those games are one-sided anyway. This one was actually pretty close. But I love the Under Armour All-American game because it does give you a little bit more of an insight to, what kind of talent you're bringing into your programs. And especially even if your guy doesn't get the ball a lot, you can still kind of see, I think I was watching the one with Emory Jones where they didn't let him play that much. I was like, okay, well, that kid's got a strong arm. You could see where he could run. And obviously you were just like, okay, well, let's see what he does next level. Okay, wasn't that great, but at least you got to see some of the talent that he did have and some of the talent that he could bring to the University of Florida and some of these other players too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I watch this game, I like I said, I don't look at the stats because this game, I mean, anything could happen. I think last year it was like a 30-point game or something. I was like 39-9 or something like that. And this year was actually close and it was competitive and there was, spark plays, but I just look for traits, honestly.
Sure.
We saw Verno Brown's run after the catch. I mean, he made that guy miss. That was, Kadarius Toney-esque there. And then, you see Nashawn Montgomery getting open in the red zone, which he did time and time again in practice. So I just look for traits, and we saw Will Griffin's arm strength. His ability to throw it from sideline to sideline. He was inaccurate at times, which he was during the week of practice as well. But again, you only have 3 days to prepare. So you're not gonna get some sophisticated game plan with it's all traits. I just look for traits because there's only so much that can happen in these games. It really is just let's see this one-on-one matchup. Let's see who wins the rep. So that's what I look for.
The couple of names I remember from the last couple of years from these games that kind of stood out and people were like, "Yo, this guy's it." TJ Moore was one of them. And we saw what TJ Moore did for Clemson this past year. And Jeremiah Smith, obviously, another name that was hot during these games. Yep. And Jeremiah Smith was no secret. But TJ Moore, I felt like, was somebody that was under the radar in the grand scheme of things and has had a great Under Armour game, right? Big kind of the all-star moment. And I was looking like, damn, we missed out on that kid. And it paid off. So the reason I say that is, like, you love hearing these guys like Nashawn Montgomery, who kind of went under the radar just given the stars that were coming in, him having a breakout game. It's like, man, that's what you want to hear going into next season, especially with obviously the anticipation headed into next season too.
Yeah, and if you remember, Aaron Childs had a fumble recovery for a touchdown last year, and I believe right. Miles Graham also played very well. And those are two guys that Gator Nation's looking forward to. I can tell you that.
How did Wiggins do? Someone on the edge, obviously edge position being something we look at.
Yeah, so Wiggins was really active in the first half of the game. He had 3 tackles. He led the team in tackles, I think, after the first 15 minutes or so of the game. Didn't play as much in the second half. But throughout the week, I mean, here's the thing about Jalen Wiggins is he is so powerful. He's strong, and you look at him, and I think he's listed at 6'4.5" and 255 pounds. I think that's what 247 has him at. But he's bigger, and he looks bigger in person. He looks like he's ready to play now. He's a very physical guy. He's not much of a finesse pass rusher. He's more of just kind of like, I'm gonna run right through you, and that's how I'm gonna do it. And he also played a little bit, and Florida doesn't plan on right now playing him on the interior, but he played a little bit of the defensive tackle for Team Icon throughout practice and a little bit in the game as well, just because
Okay.
he was one of the bigger dudes out there.
Yeah.
And so but he was creating pressure from the interior throughout practice. He had a mean bull rush where he kind of caught the offensive guard flat-footed and kind of shoved him back. But I think he does need to work on his explosiveness a little bit off the edge. He doesn't kind of have that quick burst off the line, but that's not his style. He like I said, he's more of a, I'm gonna run you over, and that's how I'm gonna get to the quarterback.
Just bigger and stronger.
So I thought he was promising. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I love it. Look, I mean, this is all fantastic. I was excited to get to talk to you because, again, I was bummed that the game got pushed because I was excited to watch this game because there was nothing going on
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
it. It's always a fun game to watch. I've watched it the last 3 years, and now this year was obviously overlapped with a fun playoff game. But yeah, I'll definitely go back and watch. I saw all the clips of Nashawn kind of balling out, and I saw a few from Vernell. I was watching your clips that you're posting too, the practice clips throughout the week. So really
Mhm.
excited to kind of pick your ear and hear what you had to say, because seeing it and then getting, again, boots on the ground perspective of somebody who's been watching this for quite some time, and you know what to look for. So I love it. Anything
Mhm.
else that we're missing that we didn't ask that you think that would be get the fans pumped up?
No, I mean, I think we covered it. I think we
I,
covered it.
I love it. Well, Nick,
Yeah.
tell them, man, where they can give you a follow. Go ahead, Dave. What you got? Some
Yeah, I was just gonna say, man, I watched a little bit of that game. I DVR'd it, so I'm gonna have to go back and watch some of the plays from,
DVR'd it. Nobody says that,
yeah.
Dave.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
go back and watch
I,
it. It was an
I
exciting
saved.
game. And
I was just gonna say I saved the video on YouTube TV, which who I'm about to
I hear you.
cancel. So.
That's better. That's better. Tell me where they give you a follow, Nick.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, at Marcinko_Nick, and then you can follow my work at GatorCountry.com. Appreciate you guys having me on.
No, appreciate you,
It's my
man.
guy
Good
Nick.
stuff. Happy New Year, man. We'll talk soon, man. Thank you. Go Gators.
Yeah, happy New Year, man.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Nick.
Well. Look, good stuff. As for the top performers, no Gator players made it. Michael Fashu, the O lineman, was number 1. Elijah Griffin, D lineman, number 2. Decoria Moore, wide receiver for Oregon, number 3. Zion Ali looks like 2026 guy to commit to Maryland so far. Cornerback Javaris Flowers. Keelan Russell, he won Gatorade Player of the Year, number 1 quarterback in the country this year too. And then a couple other guys that aren't committed anywhere from 2026. So 2026 having
Yeah.
themselves a day. 600 strong, boys and girls. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe. And look, let's talk a little playoffs. This show is brought to you by BetUS. Be sure to check out betus.com and use the code YouTube150 to get back 150%. I took advantage of that today, made some bets on these games. 150% on your first deposit, then 125 on your next two, up to $2,000. These all week I had some fun. I took Texas to cover, lost that one. Took Texas and Iowa State over. Thank goodness for overtime. Penn State was kind of probably okay, I can't say that because Ohio State absolutely demolished Oregon. But let's talk about Notre Dame, Georgia first. Look, I think after I saw Notre Dame and kind of how Georgia kind of fell flat, I felt good about Notre Dame. I took Notre Dame -1. I thought it was going to go the way that it went. I got a little nervous in the beginning. Notre Dame was struggling offensively, but Georgia just didn't have an offense. And I was like, they're not going to be able to score. They're not going to be able to do anything. And sure enough, they just couldn't move the ball.
Yeah, Notre Dame's defense has been playing pretty well all year long, and it looks like they've, obviously I think they lost to NIU at the beginning of the season, and most of the time, if most good football teams figure it out mid-year and they get better as the year goes on. I mean, if you look at Ohio State right now, they're getting hot right now. Like, you lose to Michigan, you struggle in a couple of these games, and then you get to the playoff and you're destroying Tennessee, everybody else in your path. So, I mean, it gets to a point to where sometimes you can just find a stride as a team, whether it's mid-year, beginning of the year, and maybe you just coast throughout the whole year. College football is weird, man. Like, yeah, I even said it. I said, I don't think Ohio State could win this tournament. And then now they're destroying teams, and you're just like, okay, now Ohio State looks like they might take this whole thing. So, It is interesting, man. I mean, I picked Notre Dame as well because I just thought they had the better defense. Georgia lost their quarterback. They don't have that many, decent receivers out there. They're still dropping passes in the backfield, still fumbling, Etienne. And, I picked Notre Dame, and luckily they won by 13 points, and we don't have to hear any more barking anymore.
Yeah, look, I mean, the SEC is going to get some flack. They're taking a lot as being overrated this year, and look, I mean, starting to
It's
shape
a bad
up.
year.
Yeah, definitely
It's
down year.
bad.
You can't. I mean, it is what it is. ACC lost a lot, so I'm cool with it. And I kind of look when we talked about it, everyone was like, when Harris was on Monday, they're like, "Hey, who do you want to win?" I was like, "Look, I'm not really all in on like having an SEC team win. I picked Texas to be number one team, but I kind of wanted to see. I wanted to see the thing just play out the way that it did. I think it's been great. The Texas Arizona State game was an absolute blast. Ohio State, like you said, going into that Tennessee game for Ohio State, I was kind of 50-50 on it because Ohio State just looked so lost against that Michigan team.
Yeah.
They hadn't really looked like they should all year. But they all of a sudden look like the team that everyone thought they should be. Again, they were picked to win it all, the most talented football team, composite-wise, spent the most money in the NIL. I mean, you look around and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this team should be doing what it's doing with Caleb Downs, Sawyer, their linebacker, Trayvon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins just as our 1-2 running back is ridiculous. Will Howard starting to play up to what he should be playing at. And then, of course, Jeremiah Smith is just an absolute
Jeez.
animal. I mean, golly. But they made Oregon look like Oregon didn't belong. We've been joking of who shouldn't be there and who should be there. Oregon looked just flabbergasted. And I said this before the playoffs started. And the reason I said this being a Braves fan, because when they changed the playoffs, it affected the flow of just your normal season. And I go, it's going to be interesting to see how the 4 bye teams do. I said, I think it's going to be one or the other. I think they're all 4 going to get a sweep or they're all going to get swept because either the rest is going to be beneficial or it's going to be detrimental. And you can argue that maybe the two of the teams that have byes shouldn't have been there. But either way, both teams, Oregon and Georgia, that had a bye, didn't look very strong. And you got to think like, okay, did getting a game in, kind of a playoff game with just a lot on the line, getting that rep was huge, and they still had plenty of rest in between that game into the next. I don't know. That was always my thought with the playoffs, like especially in baseball, you're not used to having this time off, and these guys, these teams have been off. I mean, Georgia, they all played in the championship game, which was what, December 5th weekend, so they haven't played in almost a month. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And it's weird because, like, if you get a bye, you get the advantage of not having to play the extra game. But at the same time, that can also kill your momentum as a team. And having all that time off, then having to go back out there on the football field, like you said, weeks later, and then having to perform the same way you did the last time you played, it can kind of be something that I don't know. I think it's good that you get the bye week, but also at the same time, it will kill the momentum. And we're kind of trying to, I mean, of course, this is the first year of it, so we have to have a couple more years to see what's more advantageous or not. But I mean, a lot of these teams, they've looked shaky this year, and then they come into this playoff and like Ohio State, and I don't know, man. Like it's been weird. This whole college football season has been weird. The SEC's been down. I think there's only one more left standing, and I don't even really think Texas is going to win the whole thing. They may win the whole thing, but I just don't. And look, I give Ryan Day, Ohio State, crap all the time. Say you recruit top 3 classes, and you always get beat by Michigan. You always blow it. And now this is what you're supposed to be doing. They should have been doing this all year. So, hey, man, I look for right now, and I think one of Jake Crane's buddies picked Ohio State to win the whole tournament. In my head,
brother.
when I looked at it, I was just like, I don't know about all that. Now he's starting to look a little bit more correct. So, yeah, man, shout out to him too for picking Ohio State. I'm wondering if he got. I didn't look at his whole bracket, but I'm wondering if he got like the whole thing correct.
I think he's so good so far. He keeps posting it, talking shit because he's been pretty dialed in on it. I think
I never gave him anything for it. I just kind of glanced at it and I was like, I don't think it's gonna happen. I kept scrolling, so
he had Georgia.
Came
He had Georgia in the national championship.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so
So
I mean, I could see that.
he's 3 of 4. He's 3 of 4 of the Final Four right now.
Yeah.
So, to be fair, boys, when I picked my Final Four, I had Notre Dame in it. I did have Oregon also going, so I was wrong on that. I think I had Texas, Notre Dame. I think I had Penn State, so I'm 3 for 4 too when I did it originally. But I did think Oregon was going to beat them. But yeah, look, this is the Ohio State team that everyone expected and anticipated heading into this. But I've loved, again, everyone kind of overreacted, I think, week one, but this week of games was kind of what we anticipated. And honestly, there were some blowouts too. I mean, it was still dominant. So I've enjoyed it. I mean, we've got extra football. There's no reason to be complaining about what we got. Like, this has been awesome.
I just thought about this too. It's like, look at Texas. Their 2 losses are to Georgia. Georgia just got eliminated, and they're still in it. So what happens if Texas winds up winning? Georgia's going to be like, we beat you guys twice. We didn't even win the national championship.
Yeah, that's brutal. Rookie Len says, what's that coming on the track? A sad effing Georgia fan, $10. I love it. I think Rookie was watching with his grandpa. He tweeted at me, if that's the same Rookie, who was a Georgia
Hey,
fan.
how's Uncle Lou, man? Did you check up on him?
I haven't even tuned in. I'm sure he's in shambles. Listen, I give Georgia flack, and I would be you got to be a little concerned about what's headed into next year with quarterback development. Gunnar Stockton didn't look too promising. Wide receivers still seem to be an issue. Defense is going to take a little bit of a hit. It's going to be interesting.
Good thing is Stockton looked better than Beck.
Low bar. Did he though?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Bit.
He had maybe I don't know. That was. I mean,
He
that was
wouldn't
just
turn it over the ball.
that was a good old fashioned ass whooping. I'm excited for the Notre Dame Penn State game. I think they're very similar, and I think you got to take a look around too. Out of the 4 teams remaining, a common denominator is just good quarterback play. Quinn probably being the weakest of the not the weakest. I think Riley Leonard's probably the weakest of the 4. You got to think Will Howard's playing at a better level. Some people like Drew Howard. I'm not completely sold on him, but he's been playing at a high level right now. I don't think he's been truly tested up until this point. But look, I think watching all these games, one thing I will have to say is I'm excited for next season. I think Florida is in a really good place to do good things next year. I think talent-wise, they're up with these teams. But there's a tick that you see with these guys. Just the formation, the coaching, the personnel, just how everything is functioning. We have to figure that out. We're not there yet. As much as I want to be a sunshine pumper, you just can see a different cleanliness and level of football watching these teams go after. And if we want to compete at this level, you got to figure that out. Now, some of these teams weren't doing that early on. I mean, Notre Dame has been playing at a high level all year, and that was kind of where my reason turned. Is like, look, after the NIU lost, they haven't slowed down a bit. They have just been on an absolute tear. Ohio State did look rocky at once, but there's so much talent you believed it could figure it out, and it finally did. Penn State's a just coached, ran football team, and they're hitting their strike at the right time. Texas, I think they lack some structure. I think they could use a little bit of TLC, to be honest with you. I think their talent's carrying them. I think they could use a little bit of tightening up, but that's what has to get figured out. And whether that's hiring an OC, whether it's bringing in a DC, you got to crank it up a notch. And that's what I want to hopefully we get some more lies. Again, we were told a lot of lies this offseason, and we regurgitated those lies from players like Doran and guys and not to take shots at them. Again, they were excited from what they were seeing. I want them to be blown away again. Like, that's where that has to be, I believe, going into this next season to compete.
Yeah, and we talk about how Florida was able to turn around their season midway through the season. Obviously, you didn't win the Georgia game in Jacksonville. The defense was playing way better than they played all year. You wondered what would have happened if Lagway stayed healthy that whole game. And look, they made changes to the defense. They simplified it. And then you started saying the defense played better. The offense was starting to find a little bit more of a rhythm with Lagway. And look, I watched some of these teams in this playoff, and I'm like, man, if a healthy Lagway and this Florida team, it could beat a lot of these teams in this playoff. So it's like, you have the guys returning next year. We'll see what else we do in the portal, because there's supposed to be more portal additions, let's hope. And, we'll see what they do in the portal. Obviously, spring game's probably going to be really hot. It'll probably be packed and sold out because of Lagway. I haven't seen a packed and sold out practice or spring game in a while, so it should be fun this year, especially if it's on a Saturday, because last ones were on Thursday. It looks like they switched it now to Saturday, so they finally got the memo. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm excited for next year, but also at the same time, I'm not gonna I'm gonna get excited, but I'm not gonna go like I was last year, because I had a lot more high hopes for this team last year, and it didn't happen because we had
you'll
the
be back in. I'll turn you. Don't worry about that.
Okay, yeah. And I got spanked for a couple of weeks, and I apologize. So, but hey, look, we're here. We turned the season around. I said if Napier wins 8 games, I'm happy. I can't go back on my word. He won 8 games. I mean, he gets at least another year. But I shoot, if he has a good year next year, they just keep on letting him go. So
Yeah, look, like I said, they got it. That tick. I need to see that tick, and we saw it at times. I think we showed it. We showed signs of it during the LSU and Ole Miss, but we still showed times, kind of where there was just you could tell where there's times that were a little bit off, and I think we need to have
yeah,
it needs to get figured out. I think it can. I'm not saying that it can't, but being critical, I know I always get hit with the sunshine pumper. I just when you watch that's the great part about these 12 team playoffs. We get to watch so many great teams that compete at an elite level. Like a lot of these guys, kind of you don't see it from week to week because they're either playing a kind of a cupcake game, or you're watching something else. You kind of just glance over it, like you're dialed in, and you're like, yeah, these guys are playing at a different level. So it's been fun to watch. Connection, I think $5 says, have you seen Cam Jackson's tweet? He tweeted, well, is all I can say.
yeah. I saw the comment, so I quickly looked while you were talking, and I rap retweeted it.
Yeah, I love it. I love the bickering going between the guys that left. Again, obviously there was that drama with ETN, and Gator fans are having their fun with it, and definitely circling back around on some tweets. It's been fun to chive in on that. But let's talk a little bit recruiting before we wrap this thing up. Again, kind of a quiet day. I do have to. Ooh, I had some chicken and it looked a little pink, and I think it's coming back to bite me in the ass, boys. I'm squeezing these cheeks, bro. Dude, I'm shivering over here right now.
Are
I'm
you
not.
gonna be on like that one dude that was on the Notre Dame podcast and just got up
Yeah,
and left because he had to take a dookie?
I'm close, bro. Like you think I'm not even joking?
This might
Yeah,
be
I'm
a short
close.
live show.
I'm close.
Well, okay, don't make Shelton laugh, man. One might come out.
Yeah. I forgot what I was gonna say about that guy. I got lost.
You're talking
Um,
about Otis, Conan Banny, and then talking about Groundhog and one.
yeah. So Onus has been and has now became part of Elite Sports Management Group, which is the same group that Vernell
Or no?
Brown owns, Vernell Brown the third's dad owns, and he also signed go back a couple of weeks when he signed Dallas Wilson. This was when Dallas was still a duck. Posted the duck, the sunglass emojis, and there was a lot of foreshadowing that he could be a Gator. He tweeted this out, and there's obviously he's been crystal ball to Florida. He also obviously has already announced he'll be signing at the late or regular signing, which is in February. So something to kind of keep an eye on. This is a 2025 commit. This could bump us up maybe a slot or two, but a 4-star cornerback play here. You got to take this over. I can't make it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, it looks like Shelton's taking a duty right now, so I'll take over the show for a little bit, guys. I'll read your comments, do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Otis Codenberry, a guy that obviously he's ranked top 300. I personally think that he's severely underrated. I think that maybe he's a top 250 guy, 200 doesn't matter. And I actually did the calculations on the I guess 24/7 sports calculator. And if you add him, and well, I added Giante Cook to it because just in case if we got him, but we didn't get him, you're sitting at like the number 7 class. So I'm sure we're going to take in more transfers. I'm sure other programs will too. So we'll see where Florida winds up in their ranking. But right now, as I said, turning around the class and everything else like that, it's for something that Napier did and nobody really saw coming, they thought he was out the door. Turns his class around, may even get it more into the top 10 towards the end of this cycle. We'll see what happens when the playoff games are over and when these kids enter the portal. Um, Heard from a lot of guys on the inside that we're still going to be going after a lot of other positions. So it isn't over yet, folks. But also, I heard that we're looking at some really good receivers here too. So old Smolder's taking over the show. Of course, I don't have command of the screen, so I'm going to have to apologize to you folks. But I'll read some of your comments and questions while Shelton's taking a big duty. So Aaron Len says, "Hey Dave, we need a defensive tackle in the portal." Yes, we do. We're going after one of those. Billy will shock the world. I hope they do, Keanu. I really hope they do. Mr. Nobody says, bruh. Yeah, I know. Leaving for duty, just like the Notre Dame guy. Any word on SAP? No word on SAP yet. Haven't heard anything from my end. If I do, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to quote unquote announce it, but I think usually sometimes when I hear stuff like maybe an hour later, word gets around anyway, and people know about it anyway. So it's just like somebody on Twitter will probably say something or clue in somebody about something anyway. Um, But yeah, I mean, if Sap returns, then that fixes some of your issues there. If he doesn't return, obviously you'll probably need to go portal wise. I don't know what the option is there. I do like what we have though on the roster, so I don't know if they technically go portal that way or not. But um, it's just kind of a wait and see thing. We're still having guys that are announcing that are leaving from the portal. Uh, I have heard we're going to try to take one more wide receiver, possibly two. I don't know if possibly two is going to happen, but it's probably one. Um, Offensive lineman, I've heard something about offensive line as well. Of course, we have the returns of Jake Slaughter and everybody else. So, um, hopefully we can shore up some problems where people have left. Obviously, you got to think about all the guys that were injured this year returning as well, especially on the Lions on the defensive line there. So I think a lot of people are forgetting about that too. Let's hope. Hopefully he returns back to be in the same form as he was last time, and he doesn't have something happen like a Justice Boone scenario. Um, I would say there. But are we keeping Ron Roberts? That's a good question. It's a really good question. Um, Everybody heard Zach's announcement on our show. Obviously, I don't know anything about Zach's announcement. I had a lot of people ask me about Zach's announcement. I don't know anything whatsoever. Usually, he gets the first. You know what? When something happens, because he's very close to the University of Florida. I'm pretty sure Nick may know too, but he ain't going to tell anybody, so don't even bother him. Um, but I am curious to see what that thing Zach was talking about because look, I asked around. If I don't tell when stuff like that happens, I would just say if it's good or if it's actually good or bad. Asked around, nobody knows. Nobody knows. And now it has been the holiday season. A lot of people are traveling. They've been with families, so it is really the info is scarce around the holiday season. But of course, we're going to see a lot of movement with coaches and everything else coming up this January. And obviously, Onus probably, hopefully, commits to the University of Florida. Him joining Vernell Brown as his agent and that kind of stuff usually can kind of give you a clue into where maybe he's going to go. But a lot of people will join agents and their companies and then go elsewhere as well or stick with their commitments too. So,
Boys, that was touch and go. That was touch and go. Oh,
I held it down, man. I was answering comments and stuff. And,
I knew you would
hey,
handle it.
look, see,
I knew you.
Oswalder could do this too. I just don't have the controls. So,
Yeah, I knew Davey could take it over. I wasn't worried at all. That's why I left it in your hands, big guy. No, so I do want to speak on that because I kept saying 12/31 the coach's contract expired. It's 1/31. I during the holiday season that I get all confused and I got all discombobulated. So he's gonna have 30 days left technically until that expires. And again, we got kids still entering the portal till today. Like I keep telling you, this thing is gonna continue to isn't slowing down any. A couple Miami guys have entered over the last couple of days. I was asking Dave, I'm like, you play in the bowl game, do you get 5 days? Because you're still seeing guys enter into the portal. And now again with teams like Oregon, think about this: Oregon and Georgia. I mean, those are two powerhouses with a lot of talent on their team. With who brought in a ton of recruits. There's going to be some movement there. There's going to be a healthy amount of movement happening. And I'm sure coaching too. That Kirby tree gets plucked just like it kind of the Bama tree. I'm sure the Lanning tree will get plucked a little bit as well. So I don't have no clue what, but I'm just saying from what we've seen, I wouldn't be surprised if those guys. I mean, think about DeBoer. People kind of give DeBoer a lot of flack, but they forget his entire coordinator crew got plucked. His OC went to Seattle. He's the head coach of the Seahawks, and I'm pretty sure the DC went somewhere. So they've got two. He brought over two brand new OCs coming over. One who clearly ruined Jalen Milroe, but that's something that when you go and you have the success that you did, those other positions start to get looked at. So we'll see.
Yeah, and a lot of kids, they'll enter the portal or they'll submit their papers like before the deadline, and then they don't announce till like a week or so later either. So sometimes that does happen as well, and they get busy. And look, it's like we said, what, 2 episodes ago? It's okay if we don't get guys right off the bat when kids are entering the portal. It's like now you have that whole month. You got people in bowl games, the 5-day rule there. You got coaches getting fired, and then you got the 30-day rule there. So it's like, is it really advantageous to, get all your guys out of the portal right at the beginning or sit there and wait? You know what? A lot of these teams tamper too. So you don't know who they're tampering with and who's going to come in there as well. So, I mean, the portal season, especially the first part in December, if you're not getting guys right off the bat, I'm not even worried. It's like, hey, let's wait. Let's see who they get because they're going to have plenty of options just like any other team out there.
I just saw the tweet. So Alabama just fired their DC coach, like just recently.
Really? I haven't been
And Alabama true
on.
freshman wide receiver Amari Jefferson entered. So I mean, look,
Yeah.
Bama's
See,
your what's that?
I said, yeah. See,
Yeah, so it's almost like we're having like a second season of portal. It's like a second portal season in between the two portal seasons. So portal season, coaching season, it's all going to be fun to
I
watch
think. I also think that's why they shortened up the spring portal period to like a week.
because they probably knew that this was kind of this would be longer than what it was implied for too. So look, I think
Yep.
the next big thing for Florida, the next big step is to, I would say, lock in some of these guys that are up for contract. Juluk being number one. I know people have they're kind of indifferent with the strength and conditioning, but I would like to bring Tyler back. I think he showed some promise, and with another year, I think he's kind of an up and coming guy. And for the fact that he stepped in, I think it was much improved. We can't argue that it was much improved. Outside, people want to put injuries on that, and you can kind of go either which way with it. But I would love to see him come back. Look, Billy Gonzalez, I think he's done a great job developing and bringing in some guys. So I wouldn't be okay. I would be okay with him. Rob Sale, I know people kind of hang their hat on that, and I've seen different conversations about it, but the development's there. You can't knock it. Yes, has there been question marks on the recruiting? Sure, and for whatever reason, I don't know, but Florida and Billy's definitely has taken the approach of not going to pay the guy. And look, it pays off if you're winning, and if you can start turning that around, maybe it could pay off. So I would be okay if they kept everybody that's up for contract. To be honest with you, I wouldn't be. Now I would like to add a few. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the title O and C, and if you have to make some adjustments. But look, I think I would like to go into a season with little attrition as possible in the coaching aspect of things, because that's just one more thing you got to kind of bring in and try to adjust and fit into the culture. And one less of those things you have to worry about, the better. Personally, and I don't feel like any of those positions we that are up for grabs were truly a detriment to the team. Personally.
Yeah, an offensive line is one of those positions. It's like it's hard to, I guess, gauge on a star level where these guys are. But like, I'm one of those guys that says stars matter, and I'll always go behind that. I wish we could get more highly rated guys in the offensive line. But if you look tonight, I mean, and this isn't me making fun, even though I have made fun of him. Look at Trevor Etienne. Look at his stats from this year. Look at the stats from when he was at Florida. 5-star offensive lineman over there, 4-star offensive lineman over here. Now, I will say, Zandabella, Kearney, you've got some other higher rated guys that come in. I think like maybe 3 or 4. So the improvement on a star level is there because Coach Hevesy didn't even touch those types of guys, but it still needs to be way up there from what it is. But as far as the production that we've seen, and it hasn't been perfect. It hasn't been perfect. I will say that. But as far as the production that we've seen, you got to kind of credit there on Rob Sale there. But we don't know if he's going to be here or not. Obviously, I've got a little bit of info on Rob Sale, but I'm not. I wouldn't share it, but I won't say that I don't know if he is going to be here or he's
Oh,
not. But
my headphones
um,
cutting out. What are you saying? What's your info?
I was just
We're doing this
no. I
2
said
weeks in a row now. You're gonna
no.
get
I
me
said
canceled.
I said no. I said I may have some info on Rob Sale, but I still don't know if he's going to stay or not. That's all I was going to say. But offensive line. As far as the production, it could be better. But as I said, I can't be upset with it. Now, if you find you a good OC, and Dan Mullen was good at this, then you can scheme around some deficiencies on your offensive line as well, and get get the team down the field. And obviously, it looks like Billy Napier does not have an issue with the run game, so um, they're doing something right for the most part. It didn't look, as I said, it didn't look that great at the beginning of the year, and they kind of flipped it around. Hopefully, we can carry that momentum into next year, and hopefully, it doesn't have like a lousy start like we did. But we'll be playing Long Island University, one of my favorite universities, because it's called Long Island University. But that'll be a good warm up game. I think you got like two kind of teams that you should be able to be at the beginning of the year. So I like having cupcakes at the end of the year because it helps you figure things out. It's really hard to play a really hard team at the beginning of the year. It's fun, but also at the same time, you get to work the kinks out when you play
Yeah,
a couple of cupcakes at the beginning.
and look with the O line thing. I mean, 5-star guys are the how you look at 5-star O linemen. They're supposed to come in and be effective sooner rather than later. and obviously the upside is much greater than typically what a 3 and 4 star. That doesn't mean a 3 and 4 star guy can't develop into that. And so if
Right.
you can create, kind of like this program in a line where you just get a bunch of, you're able to kind of, if you're able to last long enough, and it kind of feels like we're getting to that point because the line right now, Austin Barber, 3 4 star guy, Najee Harris, who I continue to preach and love for, was the lowest rated guy in our class from 2003. 3 star O lineman, has been probably one of just the most effective guys in that position. Jake Slaughter was a 3 star when he came out in 2021. I think George was probably a 4, and then that tackle position is a little question mark. But if you build that up, everything else behind it now has been building up, building up. Those guys go. Next line now is ready to go. And yeah, maybe they were 3 stars, but they've been working and growing. You can create that type of, food chain. It could work. And then if you can, pop in a 4 or 5 star here and now and then to fill in kind of some of the gaps where there are, that's where it can be beneficial. And that's where I guess excites me with Rob Sales. Like he's kind of created now a little bit of a train of, I trust his development. Right? Maybe he isn't bringing in the 5 star Solomon Thomas that's able to make an impact day one, and so we weren't winning right off the rip. But you can't discredit the development that he's done. The fact that he has 2 bricks under his name since he's been here, and Torrance is his guy, and you could argue because Slaughter's his guy because he didn't Slaughter didn't start starting until Sale got here. It was I can't think of who it was. Who was the start? He declared for the draft the year that kind of Slaughter started taking his position. I can't think of his name now. Was it Richie Garage? I think.
Richard Garage, you talk about the top 100 offensive lineman that we got from, it was from Mullins' class.
Yeah, but him and Slaughter were kind of going back and forth. That was like Sale's first year. So look, like I said, you have information in which I am just now hearing this. Thank you for doing that.
No, there's a guy in here that says dude has no info. Sheldon, how many times have I told you when somebody was going to commit before they committed, and we pre-wrote an artiple? Sometimes you pre-make a video.
Dave hears stuff like do things change for sure, but Dave definitely always knows what's going on, has an ear to the ground, and tells us. Now whether it comes true or doesn't come true, it's like Zach said, like you hear a lot of different things, but Dave 100% hears a lot of different movements going on, and so now what will happen and what he's saying, I have no clue.
Look! I'm not going to claim that I'm like the info guy and I know everybody at the University of Florida or anything like that. But it's like, come on, the guys. I'm not going to talk to guys that aren't credible that can't get me the info. I know just about every booster at Florida. I know some of the staff members. It's like I worked at Gator Country. I had to talk to these guys. Like, so you don't think that I know these people.
What people have to understand too, man, all of it's a telephone game, okay? And so at the end of the day, this thing travels downhill. And so it goes from this person. Probably changes a little bit as it gets there. And by the time it makes it to Dave and I, they've already probably changed their mind up at the top. So
I mean, look at dude, I got blamed for Dallas Wilson, and I'm just like, the kid literally signed NIL papers. He didn't sign he was gonna they had the national letter of intent signed. He never sent it in. He goes to Oregon, whatever. But like that was a last minute thing. Everybody had him crystal balled there too. So if you're gonna blame me, blame everybody else.
So I will say this. There we have guys that we talk to. I've told you this. Dave knows this. I don't really care to know. I like being surprised like the rest of you guys. Like to me, there's no advantage knowing outside of heartbreak. But sometimes when the news is too good, we'll get on a little conference call and they'll tell us what's happening. The night when I dressed up in a Santa suit, which was part of the reason I dressed up in a Santa suit, there was obviously the Dallas Wilson before the crystal balls came floating in was being heavily saying like it's a done deal, which clearly watching it unfold now a whole month later, like yeah, it was, and obviously things still got thrown a curveball, but that came true. There was other things they talked about players they were going after, the portal going true, other things that may or may not happen. Guys leaving, right? Pyburn was a name that Dave talked to me before it hit the surface. Like, hey, he's somebody he's asking for somebody. He doesn't look good. And again, that's just conversations. And I ignore some of it because I don't want it to be true. But yes, he definitely hears stuff. He's not just blowing smoke up his ass. And like, I don't think Dave or myself included, we don't like to play the insider card. And like I said, I don't think everyone has a pulse to some extent of who they talk to. But again, at the end of the day, it is a telephone game, and it gets watered down by the time it gets to us. That's a matter of a fact. And sometimes
That's
Dave will
right.
even we even go to Dave Waters, and Dave, I would say once Dave Waters confirms it, it's usually pretty dialed in because Dave doesn't put his name on it. Waters,
Yeah. Hey,
unless that shit's concrete.
Dave told me about something the other day, but I don't say anything to anybody. I don't care. I really don't care. I'm here for the entertainment value. I mean, look, if you go to my Twitter, half of it is me trolling the other rivals.
I mean, we
It's not
care, yeah,
even me
we have
giving
fun
out
with it,
info.
but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all we're here for. We're here for the fun. And I just actually, I almost fumbled this high noon, but I caught it. My last name's not ETN.
Rob Sale's gonna be the new head coach. I said I couldn't hold it back anymore, Dave. I just
Yeah, yeah. You heard it here first from Shelton.
Pyburn all about the dollars. Look, there was the conversations I was hearing was that he was asking for more money before the article broke. That was broke in our Discord before it broke. Like that was being conversated, but like there's guys on our Discord that are pretty well connected too. So if you want to hop in there and be
somebody even said it on a Twitter space.
yeah, you got to take all of it with at the surface because it changes so fluidly. Like it's like recruiting. That's why like these guys Keith when they come on here, they kind of get a little gun shy because they know how quickly things move and look, people get pissed at those crystal balls like they don't like to get their name dragged. Like they don't that's not how that works for them. Like, they care about and as they should as do we care about, how it looks. The reason why I don't care about breaking news or being first, I couldn't handle the flack. Like if I'm wrong, I can handle the flack like with other stuff, like if I make a dumb comment, but if I break someone's news and the news is incorrect and I hurt somebody else because of that, like that ain't me. I can't handle that kind of pressure. If you want to like fumble the ball and I just say you're a bum, like I'm cool with that. Like that doesn't bother me. But I know where my strengths are. So kudos to those guys for breaking the news and putting their balls on the line because it's a lot.
Yeah, that's me. I won't announce something until it's like official from like On3 or 247 or something like that, and then I let it go, and then I let it tweet, and then I get the Billy Napier video saved in my draft, so I can go ahead and post it. Like I may not know what everything's coming, but for the most part,
Yeah, look, the
it's like
reason the pro is sometimes like if we know we're getting a commit, I can make a video the day before. Like Allie, like we're always pretty dialed in. We can always have the video fired up, so when it happens, I can post it. A funny one, I won't even say it. I'm not gonna say it. Because it hasn't happened yet. There's been times too where I've had a video made and I don't post it, right? Because we like Dave was like, hey, it's a 50-50. So you do what you think. And I had to work the next day and the announcement's at 10. So I'm like, well, I want to be, we got to be on top of it. So I'll make it and we swing and we miss. So it's just the name of the game.
It's even harder with NIL now. It's like somebody could commit to you, and I mean, we've seen it happen with
Yeah,
Cormani
that's
McClain.
true. The first year, we weren't missing, bro. The Cormani started it all. The Cormani started it all. That one put me, remember, bro, that one, dude, that one was iconic because, so here's a perfect point. Sorry, Dave, you fired me up. My poops went away. I'm feeling good now. Bro, I was in shambles with the poops. I don't think, like the whole show, thank goodness Nick was on here because I was in shambles. I was sweating. It was so bad. But yeah, that clip was hilarious of me like freaking out. But it got even better because 247, they were on basically autopilot because they were so convinced that he was going to Florida that they dropped their video that they pre-recorded for him committing to Florida. And then of course that doesn't happen. So I'm watching that. I'm confused because I just watched him put the Miami hat on the graphic. But 247 drops this. I'm like, did he just pull? Is he flipping everybody around? So that's honestly, I think, what really started the nobody really knows.
That's what I'm saying. That one was more public, so a lot of people saw that one. But I mean, like, we'll literally have kids, and it's happened in the past, commit to the staff, like behind closed doors, whatever, or under the table, not publicly. And they'll say, "Yeah, I'm coming to Florida." They'll commit and say whatever, but I want to announce it on this date, and then they go and announce somewhere else. And I could name one guy right now. He flipped back to us, but I could name one guy right now that did the same thing to Florida, but he wound up flipping back to us at the end of the cycle anyway. But I'm not going to put his name out there just because I'm not that kind of guy. But I mean, it
DJ
happens.
Lagway.
Especially, it's more common. No, it's not Lagway. It's more common. It's more common with NIL now because there's these last minute deals, and we've seen it happen so many times where people will flip on.
Oh,
like,
I know who it
day.
is. Is it from this class? The guy you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember he silently because he never committed the first time. He was silently committed, and then he committed elsewhere, and then he ultimately came back. I know exactly who you're talking about. I almost just said it because I was thinking about who else do I know. But yeah, that was I remember that. You were like, because again, we were going through the class, we're trying to get videos ready, and Dave's like, hey, this person, like, we kind of had a little bit of a possible hot trail coming. But then there's times when we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, 4 and 5 will just pop, which is, I love that. It's my favorite when Dave's like, hey, we're getting so-and-so and 4 pop. I'm like, yeah, baby. Nobody knew.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, I remember I was I was texting Goodall the night that Cormani actually committed to Miami instead of UF, and he texted me with WTF.
who did?
Zach Goodall.
There's a, and not to throw rocks at this kid, but it's not really rocks. It's kind of come to fruition a little bit. And I'm not going to tell me the person who said it. We'll just go through. I'm not going to play the whole that game. There was an O lineman. We had Ada Mizell on. It was Peyton Kirkland. I remember this like it was yesterday because Peyton Kirkland Florida was interested in him. Commits to Texas. There's how we have the Ada Mizell big head was because of his reaction to when Peyton Kirkland, who at the time was a top tier inside offensive lineman. I talked to somebody close to the recruiting program. I'll tell you.
And you've got some guys that are close up there too.
Yeah, I got some people. Who said, look, like there's this one. These are one of those kids that a lot of schools actually turn him away because of his kind of his mentality. And he goes, a lot of these kids think it's all about me, not realizing reality is going to set in. And Florida kind of was like, hey, we're not dealing with that, and so pushed him away. Again, that doesn't come out. You don't hear ever the Florida side. It's like, oh, Florida missed on another one, and then he goes to Texas, doesn't play, transfers to Colorado, doesn't play, and he just transferred elsewhere. And look, wish him nothing but the best, but clearly he's having trouble finding a home, and it's kind of like what he was saying. Oh, now he's at Miami of Ohio.
Yeah.
Top,
I mean,
top lineman, and he's a 0-star as a transfer now. So it's just,
and
it's crazy all the things that we hear that a lot of we can't say because, like, again, I'm not here to thrash. And at the time, like that was early. I mean, the kid's gone through a cycle now, so it's kind of cool to see like somebody who tells me that. And I remember when the person told me that, I was like, that's crazy. Like, ain't no way. And that's what I love about doing this sport and just following along, like even with recruiting and following these kids grow up and seeing them go pro. Like I watch the NFL from a different perspective now, even from this lens of like I love watching guys who we missed out on because like man, like Harold Perkins, one of my favorite guys. I love watching him play. Incredible. Colin Simmons for Texas. He's been great. I'm like, damn, we had him on campus. You know what I mean? Like, those are things. Jeremiah Smith. Like, those are things that I enjoy just to see. Like, you can't get them all. So, but you still you learn to know who they are because at one point we followed them pretty heavily. Xavier Filsaime, you know,
we fought for that last visit for Smith too.
What's that?
We fought for that last visit on Jeremiah Smith, too, because he was supposed to visit Florida State, but he came back to Florida. But, of course, he still wound up committing to Ohio State. But
that was a wild one, too. I remember that one on signing day. That was a lot of phone calls on that day, boys. A lot of phone calls on that day. That was a crazy one.
That's the thing, man. I was like, man, I do have another phone, and I'm like, maybe I need to use that instead of having them blow up my personal phone.
Yeah, yesterday I was getting blown up with stuff. I was like, I gotta just go to bed. I gotta shut this thing off.
Well, your butthole is about to blow up here on the show.
That too. And look, even Jonte Cook. I mean, you heard a lot of rumors that Florida wasn't completely sold, and then how he's kind of acted on the timeline. He kind of was, dumping on Quinn. It's like that personality trait is just like I don't know if I want. If you got someone shitting on someone else on the timeline, that's a princely look. It's funny. I think it's funny to watch, but watching Billy doesn't really seem to attract to those type of personalities, kind of just loud on the timeline. He doesn't mind if you tweet. He doesn't mind if you kind of get active and show love and, fan. But when you're like talking jabs and throwing shade and stuff, that's where he's kind of like, all right, you ain't going to fit. You've just seen it.
Yeah, I think Napier doesn't mind that a little bit, but he doesn't want that like all day, every day. Like I couldn't go play for Billy Napier because he would hate me. So
you and I say the same thing. Like it's not that these kids are bad. It's just the culture that he's trying to build that wouldn't work. So listen. I would want to be a Gator, so I'm like, Billy, I'll behave. I'm sure I would have some trouble too. But well, boys, good show. Glad we were able to get this rocking and rolling here. Of course, this show was brought to you by BetUS. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe. We'll continue to monitor these situations. It's kind of this weird kind of limbo period. I need a press conference, Billy. What's going on? I was tired from football season, but I kind of miss it. You know what I mean? I'm getting a little nostalgic here. Like it's over. thankfully, we got some more great playoff games left over the next couple of weeks. So not slowing down. Saturday, great basketball game. 11 a.m. Kentucky.
Oh yeah.
SEC basketball play starts. I'm pumped for that. I think that's going to get me. Look, I hate January and February, my least two favorite months of the year because it gets dark at 4:30. It's cold. I don't like it to be cold during the holidays. There's nothing going on. It's the worst. It's worst holidays. It's my wife's birthday. Like nobody cares. I'm just kidding. That's the only fun part. We get to go do something. But I can't.
I was about to say you better hope somebody don't clip that and send it to her.
No, she knows. She knows I hate these months. I can't stand these 2 months. I can't wait for March 12th because every day we spring forward. It's my favorite day. It's literally my Christmas. I can't stand these 2 months of the year. So if I'm grumpy for the next 2 months, that's why, boys. But basketball will get me through, and we're good. So, Aaron Lance, keep up the good work, guys. Thank you.
I'm not even a big basketball guy or baseball guy, but I've started to watch it a little bit. It's got me a little bit interested. I can't handle the stress of it though. Like I want Florida to win, but hey, my bread and butter is football. I'll stress out about football because I still got to keep some of this hair. I mean, look at his hairline, sexiest hairline.
No, I love the stress of basketball. I love the back and forth. I love how you can be down 8 with 4 minutes to go and just come roaring back. It's a blast. Boys and girls, show's brought to you by BetUS. Of course, use the code YouTube150. Get back 150% on your first deposit. Then 125 on your next two. I love y'all. Ball be good. It's Walter. Smash the like button, subscribe. Peace and love, baby.